Chapter 30:48. Ian was lying on top of a young girl. Hearing this, he paused for a moment and then stood up. "Sir." The girl's eyes were dazed and full of anticipation. Ian picked up his robe and put it on, ignoring the girl. "Where is she?" "In a cold storage in the northern part of the Mario Islands. Both of them are there?" "No. She's alone." "Alone? What about the kid from the Chow family?" Ian was slightly surprised. "We're still investigating." "Idiot," Ian scolded coldly. "Sir, please calm down. We'll send someone to check it out and make sure it's not a trap. Then we'll take you there." "No. I'll go now." "But sir, we're still not sure if it's Liu Yan's scheme." His subordinate was anxious. "It's better if it's a scheme. I haven't fought her in a long time. I've been missing that girl." Ian smiled. At South Hill Manor. "Good morning, Grandpa." Pudding came downstairs and saw her grandpa busy at the dining table. "Good morning, Grandpa." Pudding was wearing a flower-patterned princess dress and followed her sister downstairs. "Good morning. Come and eat." "Yay. What did Grandpa make for us this time?" Pudding's eyes lit up at the mention of food. The professor was wearing a dark gray shirt and black slacks. It was clean and neat, and the color was just right for his age. No one would have thought that the famous Professor Liu was actually just an ordinary old man. Pudding sat down. They looked at the sumptuous breakfast on the table. There were 3 bowls of millet and mung bean porridge, 3 fried eggs, 2 grilled sausages, and 2 corn sticks for kids. "Grandpa, did you make all this?" Pudding was full of admiration. "Yeah. You're amazing. You're just like my daddy," Pudding exclaimed. "You didn't forget to mention your daddy when you were praising me. You're my biological son." The professor smiled. "Grandpa, did you make any progress last night?" Pudding was very concerned about her daddy's condition. "Yes. The antidote is almost ready. I'm just missing one thing. I'm going to ask that guy named Suyu for it." "Whatever you need, handsome Su can get it," Pudding said. "I know. I've already called him. When he sends it over, it will be ready." "Grandpa, can I go to the hospital with you to visit Daddy today?" "You miss Daddy?" "Of course, my sister has been there several times." I haven't been there yet. I want to go. "Okay, I'll take you." "Pudding, what about you?" "Grandpa, I won't be going today. I don't have to worry about you and my sister. I'm going to the stock exchange hall today." "What? Is there anything wrong with the stock?" "If we sell all of the Hu Corporation's shares, there will be a lot of problems. I need to go with Handsome Sue to deal with it." "Alright, then we'll split up. Grandpa will make pepper chicken for you 2 tonight. Can the 2 of you eat spicy food?" Yes. As long as it's food, I'm fine with it." Little Bean raised her hand. "You're going to be as fat as a pig sooner or later." Pudding looked at her sister helplessly. Then the 3 of them had a sumptuous breakfast. After breakfast, the professor took Little Bean to the hospital to visit Chin Chu. After Suyu delivered the professor's medicine, he drove Pudding home. On the way, Pudding was very quiet. She didn't chat with Suyu as usual. "Pudding, are you in a bad mood?" Suyu tilted his head and asked as he drove. Chapter 30:49. Pudding seemed to be in a heavy mood and only responded with a simple, "What's wrong? Are you unhappy because you're going to sell all your stocks today, little rich girl?" Suyu teased her. "No, it has nothing to do with that. Money and stocks are just worldly possessions." What's going on?" "Handsome Su, I'm worried about my mommy." "Your mommy?" Suyu froze when he heard Pudding mention Huamin. "My mommy is pregnant. I don't know where Huasiqian took her." Pudding looked sad. "Huasiqian is a bad guy, but he's good to your mommy. I've seen it with my own eyes." "Don't worry, Pudding, your mommy won't be bullied," Suyu comforted her. "No, Handsome Su, it's not like that. It's not that simple." "Then what do you think, Pudding?" Suyu knew that Pudding had a lot on her mind. She looked sad because she had a lot on her mind. "Huasiqian is good to my mommy, and he won't hurt her under normal circumstances. But don't forget he has dual personality disorder." Suyu's expression changed slightly. "Pudding, how did you know about this?" "I overheard it when my mommy and daddy were talking. The gist of it is that Huasiqian is good when he's normal, but when his second personality appears, he becomes a completely different person. When that happens, he won't be able to control himself even if he doesn't want to hurt my mommy." Suyu panicked when he heard Pudding's words. Huasiqian's double identity disorder wasn't a secret in their circle. Everyone knew about it. Although Suyu had never seen Huasiqian in his bird form, he could imagine how cruel he would be. What should we do? Suyu was panicking as well. My grandpa said that my daddy will wake up soon. It'll be great if my daddy wakes up. He'll definitely know how to find mommy. Well, I hope so. Suyu sighed slightly. I hope mommy and the baby are okay. Pudding looked out of the car window gloomily. The two of them then went to the stock exchange hall and did a series of operations. Actually, to them now, even if the whole corporation vanished into thin air, it didn't matter anymore. Because it was just an empty shell left behind by Huasiqian. Huasiqian didn't even care anymore. After that, Suyu took Pudding to Imperial Star. Suyu went to a meeting while Pudding sat in the office waiting for him. He browsed through the financial news. President Su, are you there? A woman's voice came from outside the door. He's not here, Pudding replied in her baby voice. Lingxian was slightly surprised. She knocked on the door and walked in. She saw the little girl sitting in Suyu's office chair looking very cool. Little Bean or Pudding? Lingxian smiled in a friendly manner. Are you Auntie Cece's older sister? You know me? Lingxian seemed very happy. You've had a lot of shows recently. The media said that you're now the #1 actress in Imperial Star, Pudding said calmly. Don't listen to the media. I'm not that good. You haven't told me yet. Are you Pudding or Little Bean? Guess. Pudding suddenly played a prank. To be honest, among all the women who liked Suyu, Pudding didn't dislike Pudding because she didn't think this auntie was fake. What's the reward if I guess right? Lingxian was very playful and continued to joke with Pudding. If you guess right, I'll let you have lunch with handsome Su and me. What do you think? Pudding seemed to know what she was thinking. Chapter 30-50. Well, you guessed what I was thinking. You're so smart, Lingxian praised. It's not hard. Most of the aunties at Imperial Star like handsome Su. It's no secret. After all, everyone wants to get close to their boss. Handsome Su is young, handsome, rich, and has a powerful family background. It's normal that so many women like him. Then you must think I'm one of the women with the same goal as them, right? Lingxian smiled. You're much better than them. How so? At least you're not as fake as them, huh? How can you tell? You don't know me. It was the first time Lingxian discussed such a profound topic with such a young child. He suddenly found it interesting. Because you've never caused trouble for my mommy. Lingxian was slightly surprised. Then she suddenly understood. So the women I met before all caused trouble for Dr. Hua. Yeah. They think handsome Su didn't accept them because he likes my mommy. They don't know if it's because they're not good enough. Sometimes women really like those who think they're smart. Looking at the little girl who spoke like an adult, Lingxian thought she was adorable. Do you want to eat cake? A fan came to visit me just now and gave me a delicious matcha cake. You'll get fat if you eat cake. You're a female star. How can you be so careless with your figure? Pudding scolded. I know. You're Pudding. Lingxian smiled like a flower. Pudding, you're Pudding, right? How did you know? Pudding was puzzled. Because I heard that Little Bean likes cake. Since you don't like it, you must be Pudding. Lingxian was proud. How did you know? Where did you hear such private matters from? Cece told me. Auntie Cece unintentionally sold me out. Pudding looked helpless. Just then the office door was pushed open. Suyu walked in. Pudding, are you hungry? What are we eating? Handsome Su, can I invite this auntie to have lunch with us? Pudding was a woman of her word. What's going on? Suyu glanced around and found that Lingxian was also in the office. Pudding ignored Suyu and asked Lingxian, Auntie Nya, what do you want to eat? I'm fine with anything. If you say anything, then I'll order my favorite food. Pudding said. No problem. Handsome Su, I want to eat seafood, Pudding said. Okay, whatever you want to eat. Little ancestor, let's go. Suyu walked over dotingly, picked up Pudding with one hand and walked out. Seeing how Suyu treated Pudding like his own child, Lingxian suddenly felt envious of Pudding. To be able to receive such love from Suyu. He had thought that there would only be the three of them. During lunch, Tang Chuan and Qin Ning arrived shortly after Suyu received a call. Pudding was very close to Qin Ning and sat in her arms. Auntie, when will second grandpa arrive? Your dad's surgery is about to start, right? Yeah, about tomorrow. Pudding nodded. That's good. I hope everything goes well. Qin Ning sighed. Auntie, when second grandpa comes back and dad recovers, will you go back to the States? After Pudding asked this, Tang Chuan immediately turned his head and looked at Qin Ning nervously. This was the question he had always wanted to ask but didn't dare to. Qin Ning seemed to have been back for a long time. Was she going to go back with her father this time? Chapter 30:51. We'll see how it goes. Qin Ning's words were vague. She didn't say she was leaving or not. Well, if Qin Ning leaves, someone will feel bad. Suyu teased. Humph. Nonsense. I don't feel bad, Tang Chuan said stubbornly. Keep bragging. Pudding glanced at Tang Chuan in disdain. Really? I'm not bragging. I really don't feel bad. If she goes back, I'll go with her. Tang Chuan laughed. Suyu, Pudding, look at how useless you are. Qin Ning was a little embarrassed. What's the point of having a future? I still want a wife. During the meal, Nye Lingxian didn't say much because she wasn't familiar with Tang Chuan and Qin Ning. So she just ate in silence. After the meal, Pudding said, Handsome Su, you can take Auntie Nye back to the company. What about you? I'll go see Daddy with Uncle Tang and Auntie. I'll go to the hospital to see you guys, Suyu said. Then they separated and Nye Lingxian got into Suyu's Lamborghini. You didn't eat much. He said. Well, I didn't eat much anyway. Tang Chuan is like that. We've been friends for years and he speaks casually. Most of what he says is nonsense. Yeah. I can see that you guys are close. Suyu smiled and continued driving. President Su, you're so good to Pudding, Nye Lingxian said enviously. I'm so good to her too. You're funny. Nye Lingxian was amused by Suyu. It's true. I've watched those two little fellows grow since they were young. They're like my own daughters. It seems you really like Dr. Hua, Nye Lingxian said in a low voice. Yes, I like her very much. Suyu never hid his love for Huamin. From the past until now he had openly admitted it. Dr. Hua is really outstanding. I think he's worth it, Nye Lingxian said. Your sister will arrive in the afternoon, right? Suyu didn't answer but asked her another question. Yes, it should be. Right, we're here. You can go back to the company. I'll go to the hospital. Suyu slowly parked the car in front of the company. Thank you, President Su. You're welcome. Go ahead. Nye Lingxian got out of the car and Suyu drove away. This scene happened to be witnessed by a female artist from the same company. Sister Xianxian, did President Su send you back? Yes. Did you guys go on a date? The female artist asked nosily. No, we just had lunch together. You're amazing. President Su rarely has lunch with us artists. Only Jian Tong has this privilege. What's going on? Are you and our boss? No, President Su and I are purely in a superior and subordinate relationship. You're blushing. It's true. Don't talk nonsense. I don't want to cause trouble for President Su because of me. I know. But to be honest, President Su hasn't had a girlfriend. You have a chance. You have to work hard. Now that you're so popular, beautiful and low-key, maybe you can develop a relationship with President Su. Forget it. Don't even think about it. President Su won't like me. Nye Lingxian was very self-aware. Cici had told her many times before. Suyu's love for Huamin was almost stubborn. In the hospital corridor, how is it? Old man, have you developed the antidote? Suyu still liked to call the professor old man. However, not only was the professor not angry but he also seemed to like Suyu. Chapter 30:52. Of course. Do you think I'm on the same level as those quacks in your country? The professor said proudly. Whoa. You're so arrogant. Handsome Su, you can't talk to him like that. Little Bean scolded Suyu, which was rare for her. Little Bean, you're helping an outsider. Are you stupid? Suyu rubbed Little Bean's face with his finger. I'm serious. He's an elder. You can't be so rude. Hey. Little girl. Suyu laughed. Sir, how is my brother? When can he have the surgery? Qin Ning asked. Tomorrow morning will be fine. Hearing the professor's words, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. After leaving the hospital, the professor took the twins back to South Hill Manor. On the way, Jixin video called him. Hello, Uncle Jixin. Hello, Pudding. I'm Little Bean, you big idiot. Jixin, Uncle, did your business trip go well? Pudding tilted her head and asked. Yeah. Everything's fine. How's your daddy? He can have the surgery tomorrow morning. Don't worry, uncle. I'll go to the hospital to see him. Hey, uncle. By the way, how's grandma? She's not in a good mood. I asked Bella to take care of her. Hey. As your future auntie, there's nothing wrong with taking care of your mother-in-law, Little Bean said. Jishin, uncle, be careful. Come back soon, Pudding reminded him. I miss you too. I'll bring you gifts. Thank you, uncle. Then Little Bean hung up the video call. Sis, did you notice? Little Bean asked mysteriously. What did I notice? Didn't you notice that Uncle Jishin is a little stupid sometimes? Little Bean asked in a low voice. Pudding, I used to wonder why mommy has such a stupid brother when she's so smart. His brain is really slow. Pudding, it's okay. He's not that stupid. He's not hopeless. Sis, you're a high-level hater. Little Bean laughed. But you're right. Uncle isn't as smart as mommy, but auntie is. So auntie and mommy are both grandpa's children? Pudding deduced. The two of you are so smart. The professor listened to his granddaughter's conversation and was full of admiration. When she left the hospital, Qin Ning was on her period and her stomach hurt a little. Tang Chuan saw that she did not look well, so he took her directly to the gynecologist for a checkup and took some Chinese medicine. Unfortunately, this scene was seen by Tang Chuan's mother's friend. Later, when the news reached Tang Chuan's mother, it completely changed its meaning. Mrs. Tang? I really did see your son take a girl to the gynecology department. I don't know if they're going to get an abortion. Abortion? Mrs. Tang's expression was terrible. Yeah. Young people these days don't care about these things at all. They only care about temporary pleasure. My son is like that. Last year he impregnated 3 girls. 2 of them took the money and had abortions. The other one refused to have an abortion and wanted to give birth to the baby. It was obvious that they were trying to extort money from us. They only agreed after we gave them an extra $1 million. Mrs. Tang was silent after hearing this, but her expression became even colder. I saw Chuan treat that girl well. He was supporting her the entire time. Hearing this, Tang Chuan's mother couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and walked out. Madam, get the car. I want to see that girl, Mrs. Tang said sternly. Chapter 3053. Okay, Mrs. Tang. After Tang Chuan accompanied Qin Ning to the hospital, he drove her back to her apartment. He then drove to the company. After Qin Ning returned home, she was a little tired. She took a shower and was about to go to bed. Just then she heard an order. She walked downstairs in her nightgown with her hair down. When she opened the door, she was slightly surprised. Let's talk. The domineering Mrs. Tang said she wanted to talk to Qin Ning as soon as she walked in. Qin Ning was confused. Do you need something from me? Of course. Okay. How long have you been living here? Mrs. Tang looked at Qin Ning and asked. Less than half a month. Qin Ning thought for a moment. Are all socialites so open-minded these days? What do you mean? Qin Ning received an American education, so she didn't know how to react to Mrs. Tang's harsh words. Miss Qin, you're from a prestigious family and your family is well-to-do. How could you do such a thing? What did I do? Qin Ning was confused. You and my son are only dating. You're not officially married, right? You didn't come back to the Tang family to meet the elders. Do you think it's okay for you to move in with him in such a hurry? I know you grew up in America and your mother passed away when you were young, so no one taught you these things. Wait, Annie, don't mix it up. My mommy passed away a long time ago. Let's not talk about it. Besides, I grew up in America. Whether I'm open or not has nothing to do with whether my mommy passed away or not. Why don't you just say that I'm uneducated? I didn't say that. If that's what you think, I can't do anything about it. So, Auntie, you're here today to pick a fight, right? Qin Ning looked at Tang Chuan's mother angrily. Pick a fight? No, I don't have that much time to pick a fight with you. Then get to the point. I'm going to take a nap, Qin Ning said after looking at the time on her phone. Young lady, you're so rude. I don't understand why my son would fall for you. You're right. Mrs. Tang had always been very domineering, so very few people dared to talk to her like this. Those socialites who wanted to marry into the Tang family were polite to Mrs. Tang every time they saw her. Most of them even flattered her. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but feel angry when she saw Qin Ning speak so bluntly. Maybe it's because your son has a unique taste. He likes rude girls like me, Qin Ning said. Madam, please don't be angry. We're here to talk business, the housekeeper reminded Mrs. Tang kindly. Mrs. Tang suppressed her anger and unceremoniously placed the Louis Vuitton handbag on the coffee table. She sat down on the sofa and glanced at Qin Ning. Get me a glass of water. I'm thirsty. Sorry, I never drink tea. There's some cold beer in the fridge. Would you like one? What? Ice beer? Mrs. Tang was incredulous. That's right. Tang Chuan and I like to eat snacks and drink beer, so we only have a lot of beer at home. As for tea, if you want to drink it, you have to go out of the main entrance of the neighborhood and turn left at 150. There's a tea house there. Why are you acting like the hostess of my son's mansion? That's strange. That's because your son begged me to move in. If I don't come, he'll cry, Qin Ning said deliberately. Hearing this, Mrs. Tang's expression couldn't get any uglier. The housekeeper almost cried. She knew that Mrs. Tang was furious, but the young master's girlfriend was too fierce. Chapter 3054. Qin Ning, don't think that just because my son likes you, you can do whatever you want. I'm sorry, Auntie. I've never done whatever I want. Don't accuse me of anything. I won't take the blame. Madam, let's talk about that, the housekeeper reminded Mrs. Tang to get to the point. Mrs. Tang felt a sense of suffocation in her chest that couldn't be released. She had dominated the Tang family for decades, but today she finally met someone powerful. Forget it, I don't want to argue with you about such trivial things. Let me ask you, how many months are you pregnant? What the? Qin Ning was dumbfounded. What did she say? Mrs. Tang didn't seem to hear her clearly. She seems very surprised, madam, the housekeeper explained. You don't need to be surprised. You can't hide the truth forever. It's easy for me to find out anything in this city. Although I don't like you and I don't treat you as my daughter-in-law, since you're pregnant, don't abort it. If it's a boy, it'd be a shame. After all, he's my grandson. Chuan isn't young anymore. If he has a child, his father and I will be very happy. Don't be in such a hurry to abort the baby. When you're 4 months pregnant, do an ultrasound to see if it's a boy. If it's a boy, give birth to him. The Tang family will treat you badly. After hearing Mrs. Tang's words, Qin Ning's mouth opened so wide that she could swallow an egg. Don't look at me like that. I'm a woman of my word. If you can really give birth to a boy for the Tang family, I won't treat you badly. Andy, you're so funny. Mrs. Tang, have you watched too many melodramatic TV dramas? Or was it his own YY story that couldn't be more melodramatic? Mrs. Tang, Miss Qin, our madam is here to talk to you. Although she doesn't like you, if you have a young master in your belly, she can let bygones be bygones. What pregnancy joke? Who told you that I'm pregnant? Qin Ning was about to break down. Didn't you and Chuan go to the gynecologist to get an abortion? Mrs. Tang remembered her friend saying that she saw Tang Chuan and Qin Ning at the hospital. Oh my God, please. Is going to the hospital to get an abortion? But you went to the gynecologist. The housekeeper said. That's because I'm on my period. My stomach hurts, you know. Mrs. Tang and the housekeeper were both dumbfounded. Auntie, can you please do your homework before coming to me next time? You're very scary and I'm also very confused. Besides, you should ask your son if he's touched me before. Pregnant? Could it be that she was impregnated by nature? Do you think your grandson is Sun Wukong, jumping out of a rock by himself? Mrs. Tang was speechless. If you're here because of this, you'd better go back early. It's quite hot outside. Next time just call me directly. By the way, if I'm pregnant, I'll definitely tell you immediately. I won't go so far as to abort the baby. After all, our Qin family has plenty of money and can afford it. My dad happens to be worried that no one will inherit his business. So even if I'm really pregnant in the future, whether it's a boy or a girl, Auntie, you don't have to worry about it. After being scolded by Qin Ning, Mrs. Tang was embarrassed and angry. It's almost time for my afternoon nap. The doctor said that I have to ensure that I get enough sleep, so I won't see you out. Go ahead. Then Qin Ning turned and went upstairs. Mrs. Tang was so angry that she couldn't speak. Madam, I recorded what she said just now. Should we show young master this woman's true face? The housekeeper asked in a low voice behind her. Chapter 3055. Why not? Take the recording and go find our son now. Mrs. Tang was so angry that she almost had a heart attack. Then she left Tang Chuan's mansion and followed the housekeeper to the headquarters of the Tang Corporation. Tang Chuan had just finished a planning meeting with the marketing department and was about to go for dinner. Just then he saw his mother angrily walking over to denounce him. "Mother, how come you're so free? Didn't you go play mahjong today?" Tang Chuan smiled cheekily. "Don't talk nonsense. Come in with me." Mrs. Tang's face was full of anger. Tang Chuan was a little confused as he followed behind her. He did not forget to quietly ask the housekeeper, "Sister May, what's the matter? Did my mother eat dynamite?" "Something like that," the housekeeper answered with a straight face. Inside Tang Chuan's office, Mrs. Tang looked back at the housekeeper. "May play the recording for him?" "Yes, madam." Then the housekeeper took out her phone and played the entire conversation on speakerphone. Tang Chuan listened quietly and couldn't help but laugh. After the recording, Mrs. Tang glared at her son. "Look at this woman. She acts one way in front of you and another way behind your back. She must be very obedient and sensible in front of you, right? Look at her attitude toward me. Mom, if that's what you think, you're wrong." "Huh?" Mrs. Tang was confused. "Ningning is being very polite to me. She usually yells at me," Tang Chuan said. "Mrs. Tang, young master, are you serious? Don't joke with madam." The housekeeper didn't believe it either. "No, I'm serious. Mom, you're very brave. You actually went to find Ningning behind her back." "Huh?" Thinking about what Qi Ning said to his mother, Tang Chuan laughed out loud. "Didn't I think she was pregnant?" Mrs. Tang was a little angry. "Pregnant? I want to, but I haven't even slept with her yet. How can I get pregnant? If she gets pregnant now, the child won't be mine. Do you want your son to be cheated on? What nonsense are you talking about? I just want to tell you that look at how uneducated this woman is." "Who said that? Ningning is a very nice person. She treats her friends and family very well." "Really? I can't tell at all. Look at her attitude towards me. Mom, I have to talk to you about this. There's a saying, if you respect her, she'll respect you 10 times over. Look at you, you were so aggressive. If it were any other girl, they would have been scared to tears. Our Ningning is brave. She fought you alone, and won by a small margin." "Ah. Tang Chuan, are you really my son?" Mrs. Tang was furious. "You shouldn't be asking me about this. I was wondering if you had mistaken me for someone else at the hospital. Didn't you notice that I'm better looking than you and Dad?" Tang Chuan brushed his short hair and pretended to be handsome. The female housekeeper almost laughed out loud because of his young master's teasing. "Don't joke around. Be serious." Mrs. Tang was furious. "I've always been serious. Mom, I'm warning you. Don't mess with our Ningning. You won't have a good ending." "What? You're not even married yet and you're already forgetting about me? Do you have a conscience?" Mrs. Tang was so angry that she was about to cry. "Mom, if you promise not to mess with me in the future, I'll definitely have a conscience." Tang Chuan patted his chest and promised. "I want you to break up with that woman immediately. Right now," Mrs. Tang ordered angrily. Chapter 3056. "Mom, if that's the case, then I can only..." At this point, Tang Chuan deliberately paused. "What can you do?" Mrs. Tang curiously looked at her son's unfinished sentence. "Then I can only go to the States with Qin Ning and become a live-in son-in-law of the Qin family." The Qin family is richer than us anyway. My wife is pretty and cute. The most important thing is that you don't have to get involved with me." "You unfilial son. I'll beat you to death. How did I give birth to a wastrel like you? Look at your cousins. Which one of them is like you? Yeah, they're all puppets. They do whatever their parents say. I'm the first in the Tang family to be weaned." "Mrs. Tang, young master, don't make Mrs. Tang angry. She's not in good health right now," the housekeeper tried to mediate. "Mom, you're not in good health. Go home and rest." "I haven't eaten yet. I'm starving. I'll go out and get some food." Before his mother could say anything, Tang Chuan wrapped his arms around his mother's neck and kissed her on the cheek. He even purposely made a noise with a smack and ran away quickly. Mrs. Tang was angry and resentful. "Come back here, Mrs. Tang, I think young master has a bad temper. Let's go home first." Mrs. Tang worked for a whole day but got nothing. After being pissed off by Qin Ning, she was pissed off by her son. In a Sichuan restaurant downstairs, Tang Chuan ordered 2 dishes and a bottle of beer. Then he immediately sent Qin Ning a video call. What? Qin Ning lay in bed and picked up the video call in a daze. Ning Ning, come eat at the Sichuan restaurant downstairs. I'll treat you to boiled fish. I'm not going. Come on. I miss you. I'm not going. I'm in a bad mood. Is it because of my mom? Did she bother you? Tang Chuan chuckled. You still have the nerve to say that. Your mother is such a bitch. Qin Ning complained helplessly. Ah, my mom is like that. Now you know why I wanted to be your live-in son-in-law, right? Because compared to my parents, your father's character is simply superb. My daddy is coming soon. Speaking of which, I miss that old man a lot. Qin Ning's eyes suddenly became warm. Well, this time my father-in-law is here. I have to be a good host. I have to treat him well. Don't talk nonsense. No, I'm serious. Besides, my brother-in-law is about to wake up. Let's celebrate. Since everyone is so happy, why don't we consummate our marriage? Scram. I knew you would scold me. What's there to be happy about? We don't even have a clue about my sister-in-law's whereabouts. My brother won't be happy when he wakes up. It's okay. I believe that our sister-in-law will be blessed by God. She and the child will be fine. Tang Chuan comforted. I hope so. Middle Eastern countries, cold storage. Hearing the shuffling of footsteps outside, Lu Yan immediately opened her eyes in alarm. Xiao Fei had been gone for a while. After her wound was stitched up, she looked much more energetic than before. Although the temperature in the cold storage was low, it was enough to keep her brain awake and not make her pass out. Sir Lu Yan is in there right now. Should we charge in? His subordinate asked Ian for instructions carefully. Ian was wearing a black cloak with a hood. Thick black eyeliner covered his eyes, making him look very demonic. There was a creepy smile on his lips, the kind that made people's hair stand on end. Chapter 3057. Don't worry. Yenmer isn't that easy to deal with. Ian smiled evilly. Hearing so many footsteps, Lu Yan knew that it wasn't Xiao Fei and his reinforcements. She waited for a long time but didn't see anyone come in. She was puzzled. Lu Yan's body was still weak after the surgery. She leaned her body against one of the concrete pillars in the cold storage. Ian looked at the old cold storage room quietly but wasn't in a hurry to go in. Sir, if you're worried about a trap, we can set a fire and smoke the woman out, one of his men suggested. Upon hearing this, Ian slapped the man so hard that he saw stars. You've been with me for so long but you still can't shut up. I'm sorry, sir. I was wrong. All of Ian's subordinates knew that he was temperamental. It was hard to guess what he was thinking. No one knew what he liked. He was like a madman. Finally, Ian walked closer to the cold storage room door and was about to walk in. Sir. His subordinates wanted to stop him but didn't dare to. Ian had brought dozens of people with him. When he walked to the cold storage room door, only 4 people followed him. They knew that their master wanted to talk about the real situation. At the cold storage room door, one of Ian's subordinates opened the door for him and didn't lock it. When Ian walked in, he felt a gust of cold air blowing against his face. The cold storage room wasn't very big so he could see everything inside. So he saw Lu Yan curled up in a corner, leaning against a pillar. She looked exhausted. Disgusting guy, it's really you, Lu Yan said in perfect English as she looked at Ian with disgust. Ah, disgusting guy, is that my new name? I like it. Lu Yan glared at Ian. Baby, you look seriously injured. Ian said. Don't worry, I won't die. Even the King of Hell doesn't dare to take my life. King of Hell? Who's the King of Hell? Ian didn't understand Chinese culture and was confused. It's your ancestor, Lu Yan said in annoyance. No, that's not my ancestor's name. Baby, where's your sweetheart? Why did he leave you and run away? He's a heartless guy. I told you, why don't you follow me? I love you so much. Ian looked at Lu Yan with great interest. In the past few years, the amount of manpower and money he had spent on hunting Lu Yan was shocking. Other than capturing Lu Yan to threaten the professor, Ian had his own selfish motives. That was, he had an extremely strong interest in this treasure with an Eastern face. Ever since Lu Yan was a teenager, he had been thinking about her. It could be said that he had watched her grow up in the past years. For years, Yans with Lu with Lu, Yans with Lu with Lu's with Lu. He had never been so interested in a woman before. That was why he didn't have the heart to kill Lu Yan. Cut the crap. Do I need your love? What do you know what love is? You only know how to pretend to be a vampire and play with disgusting things. Don't you even have teeth? Don't you feel embarrassed? Lu Yan's tongue was even sharper than Huomin's. Lu Yan was the first person in history who dared to talk to Ian like this. Ian's subordinates' expressions changed when they heard what Lu Yan said. Boss, I'll teach this rude woman a lesson for you. Ian's subordinate walked toward Lu Yan with his bare hands, intending to pick her up and give her a good beating. Chapter 30:58. Before Ian could stop his subordinate, he saw him rushing over with big strides. Before he could reach Lu Yan, he heard a bang. That person's entire body was blown away. The others were so scared that they retreated behind Ian. They had heard that Lu Yan was an explosives expert and had been playing with all kinds of explosive materials since she was a few years old. The military of many countries wanted to recruit this explosives genius, but they were all rejected. How could Ian not know? However, this brainless subordinate rushed over without thinking about the consequences in order to protect his boss and claim credit. So he could only be blown away. Baby, you're still so naughty. Every time we meet you give me a big gift. Ian didn't feel anything about losing a subordinate. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised by Lu Yan's design. A big gift? No, that's not it. This is at most an appetizer. Lu Yan smiled. Then your appetizer is really unique, Ian praised. Ian, do you know Journey to the West? Lu Yan closed her eyes and leaned against the pillar leisurely. Journey to the West? Ian froze. Yes, it's a famous novel in our country. It's about a master and his disciples who protected their master in the journey to the West. But that's not the main point. The main point is that every time the disciple went out to do something in order to protect the disciple who didn't know martial arts, they would draw a circle around him. Then the demons and ghosts wouldn't dare to come close, Lu Yan said slowly. So? Ian seemed to be curious about Lu Yan's story. So, I also have a circle around me. It looks peaceful, but it's actually very dangerous. Master, she's talking nonsense. Don't believe her, I'm not afraid. At this time, another brainless subordinate didn't believe Lu Yan's words and thought she was deliberately mystifying things. He directly rushed towards Lu Yan. At the same distance, at a different angle, another explosion exploded on the spot. The person reacted quickly and dodged in time. Only one of his arms was blown off. Thick smoke billowed. The air was filled with the smell of gunpowder. I told you it's true, but you still want to die. Ian, your subordinate's IQ is worrying. Lu Yan was proud again. You only have one circle. I have many subordinates. Baby, you can't beat me. Come with me. I don't want to hurt you. Ian coaxed her. Master, we can directly use anesthetic needles to attack her from a distance. We just have to stay away from her. After she faints, we can take her away. Someone tried to trick Ian again. Did you hear that? Baby, if you continue to resist, I'll have no choice but to give you an anesthetic. You little beast, do you want me to give you the same dose as the lion or tiger? Ian said as he lifted his hands and lifted his black hat. He took the thin and long transparent needle from his subordinate's hand. It's a good idea, but I advise you not to do it. You'll regret it. Lu Yan chuckled. Why would he regret it? Could it be that my baby has a better way? Indeed, Ian had always been wary of Lu Yan. After all, he had fought with her many times and knew how cunning she was. Therefore, upon hearing Lu Yan's words, Ian became even more cautious and hesitated in his actions. Boss, this girl is bluffing. She's alone and helpless, how could she have any other way? Ian, do you want to try? Let's see who will be the unlucky one if you shoot the anesthetic needle at me. Lu Yan opened her watery eyes and looked at Ian with a confident smile. Chapter 30:59. China Military Hospital. As soon as Rick got off the plane, he and Cece went to the military hospital to see Chin Chu. Suyu came after hearing the news. When he arrived, Rick had been in the ward for a long time. Maybe because he was in a bad mood, Rick was alone with Chin Chu. Cece was outside the door with the bodyguards Rick brought. Cece sat there with two white bodyguards standing behind her. President Su. Seeing Suyu, Cece stood up. Where's Rick? He's inside. How long have you been here? About half an hour. We came as soon as we got off the plane. Cece said. Hey. I'll go in and take a look. Have a seat first. Hey. Cece nodded. Suyu pushed open the door and went in. He saw Rick sitting beside Chin Chu's bed. Knowing that they were very close, it was normal for Rick to be upset. Seeing Suyu come in, Rick stood up and nodded. I heard they found someone to operate on him. Yes, a mysterious old man, Suyu answered honestly. Mysterious old man? Rick was also puzzled when he heard this. Pudding agrees with that old man. He's very mysterious and I can't find any information about him. But based on my intuition, he's not a bad person. I believe he can wake Chin Chu up. Do you have a picture of him? Rick asked. Oh yes. Suyu took out his phone. He had taken a picture of the old man and wanted to investigate him, but he didn't find anything. Rick took the phone and glanced at it. His expression changed. You know him? Suyu saw the subtle change in Rick's expression and immediately asked. His identity is indeed special. But since someone doesn't want you to know, it's better that you don't know. Suyu, they were all so mysterious. Suyu had enough. However, I can tell you with certainty that this person will definitely be able to save Chin Chu. If even you trust him so much, then I'm even more curious about his identity. Seems like Pudding knows, and the old man knows as well. I'm the only one who doesn't know. Suyu smiled. Let's wait for Huamin to come back and let her talk to you personally. This matter does involve a lot of things and is very complicated. Is this old man related to Mion? Suyu was surprised again. Rick didn't reply. Instead, he walked over and pulled up Chin Chu's quilt. I'll stay here for a few days until Chin Chu wakes up. I'll stay at the Kempinski Hotel. You can contact me if you need anything. All right. Suyu nodded. Then he immediately opened the door and walked out. After not seeing him for a few years, he was still so cool. It was as if he was the only one in the world who was the most awesome. However, Suyu understood Rick's character, so he understood. Are you done? Cece stood up. Yes. How's President Chin? He's okay. Rick said lightly. Good. I want to go back and see my family. I'll drive you. Rick gently held Cece's hand. No, can you have dinner with my family? Cece asked carefully. Rick didn't expect this, so he froze for a second. Of course, I won't force you if you don't want to. I know you don't like formalities. My family is actually quite simple. It's just my parents and my sister. My sister took the day off and waited for me at home. She said my mom made my favorite sweet and sour fish. Cece chattered on, trying to hide her embarrassment and disappointment after being rejected by Rick. Chapter 3060. Let's go. Cece froze. Let's go to your house for dinner, Rick repeated patiently. Then Cece couldn't hide the ecstasy in her eyes. This guy actually agreed. He was the coolest guy in the world and he actually agreed to have dinner with her family. Cece was just testing the waters and didn't expect Rick to agree so quickly. Cece, yeah. These are small things. As long as you're happy, I'm willing to do them, Rick said. Was this Rick's confession? Cece suddenly felt that happiness had come so suddenly. She had been worried that after she got pregnant, they couldn't do intimate things and would be neglected. But not only did Rick not do that, but he took care of her even more carefully than before. During her time in the States, she wasn't very happy. After all, she wasn't familiar with the place. Rick was busy with something every day and she didn't know what it was. So most of the time she stayed in the luxurious house, waiting for him to come back for dinner. Sometimes he came back in the middle of the night and the food was cold. She fell asleep and woke up in the morning, but he left before she could make breakfast. Just like that, Cece lived a boring but persistent life as she waited day after day. She waited for Rick to dote on her more and more. This time she came back to China because something happened to Chin Chu and Huamin. But for Cece it was indeed a happy thing to be back. Rick took Cece back to Cece's home. Qin Ning's father arrived in the city not long after Rick and the others. Tang Chuan drove his black Rolls-Royce to greet his father-in-law like a lackey. Qin Ning wasn't feeling well and had menstrual cramps, so she waited for him at home. At the Sea City airport. Father-in-law, please accept a bow from your son-in-law. When he saw Qin Ning's father, Tang Chuan hurriedly greeted him. Don't be so fake, I don't like it. Where's Ning Ning? Second Uncle Qin looked for his daughter as soon as he got off the plane. Oh, Ning Ning isn't feeling well. She's resting at home. Not feeling well? What's wrong? It's nothing serious, don't worry. It's just her period. I'm not your father-in-law yet. You're not married to my daughter yet. Don't call me that. Yes, yes, yes. You're right, Uncle Chin. Tang Chuan nodded and bowed. Then he took the initiative to help the old man carry his luggage, picked him up and returned to Tang Chuan's villa. How's Chu doing now? Second Uncle Chin asked on the way. Brother-in-law's condition is still considered stable. He can undergo surgery tomorrow. He should wake up after the surgery. Where are my elder brother and sister-in-law? We've settled the 2 elders of the Qin family on Mount Yunding. They're far away from the trouble here, but we plan to bring them back for the operation tomorrow. Yes, this arrangement is not bad. My brother's heart is not good and his blood pressure is high. I'm afraid he won't be able to take it. This is what a son-in-law should do. After all, it's our family's business. Second Uncle Chin glanced at Tang Chuan indifferently. I heard that you went back to work at Tangkor? It's just temporary. I'm helping my father with some errands. It's good to have a job. It's better than idling around. Ning Ning has been flying around the world with me since she was a teenager to attend board meetings. You should really learn from her. Although she's younger than you, she's definitely better at business management than you are. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, Uncle Chin, you're right. Tang Chuan really didn't dare to offend this old man. At South Hill Manor, Grandpa, do you think the colored liquid in this bottle can really help detoxify my daddy? Little Bean stared at the small glass bottle and asked curiously. Chapter 3061. You're asking because you don't believe me? The professor chuckled. No, I'm just curious. Kid, you're so smart. The professor rubbed Little Bean's head lovingly. In the past 2 days at South Hill Manor, the twins didn't feel bored following the old man around. Instead, they found it very interesting, especially Little Bean, who thought her grandpa knew a lot and knew everything. He could cook, cure diseases, study all kinds of interesting liquids and do chemistry experiments. He could do magic and tell interesting stories about criminal psychology. There was nothing he couldn't do. Even when Suyu offered to take her out for dessert, she refused and didn't want to leave the house. The professor hadn't lived such a peaceful life in a long time. Seeing his granddaughters day in and day out, his feelings for them gradually deepened, and he was even more reluctant to leave. Grandpa, can you help me check if this equation is correct? Pudding was doing exercises on her tablet. The professor walked over. Little Bean took the opportunity to dial Gao Buyuan's number. Little Bean. Buyuan, what are you doing? Watching cartoons. Great. You didn't even send me a WeChat message to watch cartoons. I despise you. No, I thought something might happen to you, so I didn't. I don't want to hear your explanation. Humph, a bag of seafood chips. Hey. A bag of seafood chips. Gao Buyuan nodded repeatedly. Where's Auntie Lingling? My mom's making soup in the kitchen. Uncle Gao Ran is at home too? No, my dad's been busy. He must have a lot of things to do at the bureau. By the way, Buyuan, I want to show you something. Little Bean carefully leaned over with her phone and shone the light on the glass bottle of colored liquid. What's that? Gao Buyuan leaned over curiously. This thing is magical. If my dad eats it, he'll wake up. So powerful. Where did you get it? An immortal gave it to me. Little Bean chuckled. Liar. There's no immortal. It's good stuff. You can't buy it with money. Little Bean seemed to be in a good mood. As long as Uncle Chin wakes up. I hope he's safe. Yes. When Daddy wakes up, he can hug me and help us find Mommy. Little Bean, if you and Pudding are bored at home, I can ask my mom to drive you to my house. No, we're not bored. We're very interesting. When my daddy wakes up, I'll invite you over for a barbecue. Okay, should we wake Wei Yunchu up too? Gao Buyuan asked. That's my sister's problem. It's not within the scope of my concern. Alright then. After the call with Gao Buyuan, Little Bean was still curiously looking at the small glass bottle. She could really wake her daddy up. It was too magical. Little Bean suddenly looked forward to it. Would Daddy wake up like the Sleeping Beauty in the fairy tale? Just thinking about it made him happy. On a deserted island overseas, Huamin had been pregnant for almost 3 months. She was very sleepy every day and was especially fond of sleeping. After she woke up, she opened the door and smelled a very fragrant smell from afar. Then she saw Hua Xiqian, who was shirtless and wearing beach shorts, setting up a shelf with a wooden fire under it. A lamb leg came out of nowhere. It looked ready to be eaten with fat flowing out. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Hua Xiqian turned his head and looked at Huamin with a gentle smile. How did you sleep? Chapter 3062. Huamin didn't answer. Instead, he walked over with a cold expression on his face. My people sent us a lot of meat. I saw a marinated lamb leg. I think you'll like it. Hua Xiqian, are you really going to stay here for the rest of your life? What's wrong with staying here for the rest of my life? Hua Xiqian asked back. Don't you want the Hua Corporation that you worked so hard to get? You have so many assets. In your empire. Don't you want them all? Do you want to be a fisherman here? Huamin deliberately provoked him. I've lived for so long and I've always understood one thing. Money is just a worldly possession. I've never been obsessed with money or power. When I was abused as a child, I only wanted to protect myself and not be bullied when I grew up. Ha, you're such a hypocrite. Don't forget how many lives you've taken. Huamin laughed mockingly. I've never killed people for fun or boredom. I've always done it for a reason. Those who died by my hands were either against me or against you, just like Song Yisher. That bitch did so many bad things to you behind your back. Didn't she deserve to die? Even now, Hua Xiqian didn't think that he was wrong to kill people. He thought that he was punishing them on behalf of God. Fine, you're crazy. I won't argue with you. Then Huamin turned around and walked towards the beach. Mian, the lamb leg is ready. Sit down and eat. Eat by yourself, Huamin said bluntly. In front of Hua Xiqian, no matter how beautiful the scenery was or how delicious the food was, Huamin found it tasteless. She wanted to go home. She missed Qin Chu, the twins, her mother Zhixin, Suyu, Lingling and Xiaowei. She missed all her friends in that city. She missed Yan even more. She missed her biological father, whom she hadn't had the chance to see. But, could she go back? She had no idea how long she would be imprisoned by Hua Xiqian. If it weren't for the baby in her belly, she might not have been able to hold on and would have broken down long ago. South Hill Manor, ding dong. The doorbell rings. Little Bean immediately ran down to open the door. The moment she opened the door, she froze. Well, Uncle Rick. Very good, you still remember me. Of course. You're so handsome. You're the most handsome man after my daddy and Suyu. Little Bean, are you obsessed with looks? Cece laughed. Auntie Cece, you're back too? Yes. Come in quickly. Big sister will be very happy to see you. Then Little Bean turned around and shouted, Qin Zhao Zhao, look who's here to see us. Pudding put down her computer and stood up. Uncle Rick, Auntie Cece. Pudding was also surprised but not as excited as Little Bean. I brought you some gifts. I bought them at Disneyland. You guys should like them, right? Cece handed the dolls to the sisters. Thank you, Auntie Cece. Who's here? You two look so happy. The professor walked downstairs. When he saw Rick, he was slightly surprised. Rick nodded at the professor and the professor nodded back. Pudding, Little Bean, can you take Auntie to your backyard? I heard you have Bulgarian roses. Auntie loves roses. No problem, I'll take you there. Little Bean took the lead. Cece took the opportunity to send the twins away, leaving only Rick and the professor in the living room. After the kids left, Rick spoke first. Professor, I didn't expect you to come in person. You know me? Professor Lu narrowed his eyes slightly. Chapter 3063. I've seen your photo before, Rick said in a low voice. I see. The professor smiled. It's great that you're here. I'm glad you're here. Qin Chu will be saved. Rick knew what kind of person the professor was, so he knew what to do. Yes, that's not a problem for me. Professor, you're very powerful. You should be able to find Mion's whereabouts easily, right? No, I'm not. You don't have Mion's whereabouts either? Rick was surprised. Yen is still looking for her. That means Hua Xiqian really invested a lot this time. Even you can't find her, Rick said. That boy from the Hua family is very meticulous. He's very obsessed with my daughter, so it won't be easy to find her. He even dared to betray Ian. There's nothing he won't do. That's bad. Even if Qin Chu wakes up and finds Mion's whereabouts, he'll be very sad. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do. We'll save as many as we can. Anyways, as long as Mion is safe, the kid from the Hua family won't hurt her. We'll find her one day, the professor said. Rick nodded and didn't say anything else. Middle East. Inside the cold storage, Ian and Lu Yen were still confronting each other. Ian didn't know what Journey to the West was or how it worked, but he knew that Lu Yen wasn't someone to be messed with. Ian held the anesthetic needle in his hand, but he didn't make a move on Lu Yen. Boss, this woman is doing it on purpose, right? We're so far away, shooting her with the anesthetic needle shouldn't hurt her, right? Ian's subordinate didn't want to give up, so he instigated his boss to attack Lu Yen. Ian didn't say anything. Lu Yen smiled and said, "Kid, you seem to have forgotten how I blew up the branch in Indonesia. You have a mini bomb?" The people behind Ian retreated in fear. "I have a lot of bombs like that. I carry them with me at all times. If you want to use the needle on me, I'll die with you." "Baby, are you trying to scare me again?" Ian smiled. "If you don't believe me, you can ask Chow Nan. He knows my tricks." Lu Yen closed her eyes and ignored these people. His expression was incomparably relaxed. In fact, he didn't seem to be afraid at all. "Boss, this woman can't possibly have a miniature bomb on her, right? We shouldn't have trusted her. What do you know? She doesn't play by the rules." Ian frowned slightly. Then, 5 minutes later, Ian stood not far from Lu Yen, not daring to make a move. He could only watch from afar, not daring to get close. Lu Yen was surrounded by explosives and could be blown up if she wasn't careful. At this moment, footsteps came from outside the door. "My lord, someone is coming." "Oh no, maybe their reinforcements have arrived." Just as he finished speaking, a grenade was thrown into the room. There was a loud bang behind Ian and the others. Ian's subordinates covered Ian as he hurriedly left through the side door. They escaped with the help of the billowing smoke. Xiao Fei rushed in, carried Lu Yen out of the front door and got into the car. "Bastard, what took you so long? I was almost kidnapped by that psycho Ian." Lu Yen pinched Xiao Fei's face and scolded him. "I'm sorry, Yen." Xiao Fei looked at the weak Lu Yen with heartache. "Xiao Fei, I'm so hungry. I want to eat." Lu Yen's head tilted and she passed out. "Yen." Xiao Fei was scared out of his wits. Chapter 3064. When Lu Yen woke up again, she was already in a private plane, tens of thousands of meters in the air. Below her was the vast ocean. "Get me a glass of water." Lu Yen woke up weakly. "You're awake?" Xiao Fei walked over with a glass of water and sat on the big leather bed. "Where are we?" "On the way to M country. I asked your doctor to treat your wounds. You can rest and recover." Lu Yen opened her eyes and looked around the private plane. Other than Xiao Fei, there were 4 other people in the plane as well as a team doctor. The doctor was an Israeli. Lu Yen nodded. She sighed in relief and leaned against the back of the bed. Xiao Fei carefully picked up a pillow and placed it behind her back. "We received news that Ian arrived at the cold storage 10 minutes ago. But for some reason he didn't do anything to you. Luckily we arrived in time. We were worried that he would take you away. That's because he was scared." Lu Yen smiled. "Xiao Fei, Lu Yen was the only person in the world who dared to say that Ian was scared. Ian was a murderous terrorist, how could he be scared?" So Xiao Fei thought that Lu Yen must have done something. "Boss, did you play with bombs again?" One of the female subordinates interrupted with a smile. "Yeah, I drew a circle around myself with a bomb. Anyone who gets close will die," Lu Yen said. "What about Ian? What's he scared of? What did you say to him?" Xiao Fei was curious. What did Lu Yen do to make Ian not dare to do anything for 10 minutes? This wasn't his style. I told him not to act rashly. He might lose more than he could gain. That's it. Xiao Fei was surprised. Yeah, the more vague I was, the less confident he was. Ian is a very cautious person. I said that and pretended to be confident. He thought that I had a mini bomb with me that was as powerful as the one that blew up his Indonesia branch. If he used the tranquilizer needle, we would all die together. You have a mini bomb with you? Xiao Fei was surprised. He had been with Lu Yen for so long, but she didn't mention it. That little thing was very dangerous. It could blow up an area with a radius of several kilometers at any time. No, Lu Yen said confidently. Xiao Fei, so you were trying to scare Ian? Xiao Fei asked. Yes, I was stalling for time, waiting for you to come. Boss, you're really ruthless. You can even do this. What if someone finds out? A male subordinate was so scared that he cursed. Exposed? How could this be? My acting skills are Oscar-worthy. Lu Yen smiled smugly. But Ian isn't just anyone. Boss, you're really awesome. It's because he's Ian that I dare to say such nonsense. If it were anyone else they wouldn't believe me. Xiao Fei, his subordinates, you guys come here. Lu Yan waved at her subordinates. His 4 subordinates, 3 men and 1 woman, walked over in an orderly manner and stood in a row. How's the investigation going? There's still no news about the first Mississippi, no news yet? How is that possible? How many days has it been? Huasiqian hasn't shown up? No, he hasn't contacted Germany. Our people are closely monitoring Nalo and haven't found Huasiqian. It's the same in the States, that's strange. Are the 2 living people really missing? Lu Yan was in a bad mood. Boss, there's news in China. What news? Lu Yan looked up. Chapter 3065. Your father is preparing for Mr. Qin's surgery. Lu Yan, I don't need you to tell me that. That's why the old man came back to China. Lu Yan was so angry that she wanted to curse. Her 4 subordinates lowered their heads and didn't dare to say a word. You've been with me for so long but you're still so brainless. I'm so angry. Lu Yan turned her head. Young Master Qiao. Seeing their boss angry, her subordinates reminded Xiao Fei in a low voice. Xiao Fei was sensible and brought over a bowl of wontons from the side. Ahem. Yan, didn't you say you were hungry? I'm not hungry. I'm full from being angered by them. Lu Yan said in a huff. Wontons. Are you sure you don't want to eat them? Puns. Where did you get them? Lu Yan immediately turned her head and saw the bowl of fragrant wontons in Xiao Fei's hand. Have a bite first and see how they taste. Xiao Fei picked up the bowl and fed Lu Yan a wonton with a small spoon. Although Lu Yan had been living abroad, she liked Chinese food the most. She liked all kinds of snacks including Sichuan, Hunan and Cantonese. Xiao Fei had been with her for a long time and knew her personality well. How is it? Seeing Lu Yan eat one, Xiao Fei asked tentatively. Psycho Qiao, where did you get it? Tell me first. Is it good? It's so delicious. Lu Yan impatiently snatched the small bowl from Xiao Fei's hand and began to eat. Be careful. It's hot. Eat slowly. No one will take it from you, Xiao Fei reminded her. At the same time he waved his hand at Lu Yan's subordinates and asked them to leave quietly. Her subordinates immediately understood and left the inner cabin. Say, there's always someone to beat. I used to think that with our boss's bad temper no one could control him. I didn't expect that young Master Qiao, who looks cold and quiet, would be our boss's nemesis. Of course. Young Master Qiao dotes on our boss. He betrayed his family for our boss. There aren't many men like him nowadays. Yeah. If I were our boss I would have agreed to young Master Qiao's proposal. Forget it, let's not get involved. If the boss hears us we'll be screwed. A few of his subordinates ran to the outer cabin to rest. Xiao Fei was taking care of Lu Yan. After finishing the bowl of wontons, Lu Yan wiped her mouth in satisfaction. Psycho Qiao, you still haven't told me where this thing came from? Did Zaire buy it in Chinatown in the Middle East? Lu Yan regretted it after she said that because it didn't taste like frozen ice cream. It seems that you won't believe me if I say I bought it. What did you say? You did it? Lu Yan was so surprised that she almost vomited blood. Yes. How do you know this? I learned it online. What about the noodles and meat fillings? I bought it from a supermarket in Chinatown. Fuck. I'm impressed. Lu Yan was completely convinced by Xiao Fei. You don't have to kneel. When you recover you can consider sleeping with me. Xiao Fei said seriously. Sleeping with you? Don't think about it all day long. When you have time help me find out where my sister is. I'm so anxious. Lu Yan leaned on Xiao Fei's shoulder and recovered while worrying about Huamin's whereabouts. In the hospital in Sea City, the corridor of the military hospital was full of people. Almost everyone was there. Before the professor walked in his white coat, he said to everyone, "Wait for my news." Then he followed Qin Chu into the operating room. Chapter 3066. Everyone waited anxiously outside the door. They were Qin Chu's parents, his second uncle Qin Ning and Tang Chuan. Xixin and his mother also came back from overseas. Jiang Shaowei Wei Liao and their son. Gao Ran Zhu Lingling and their son. And Ai Yang and his wife also came early. Rick and Cece, who just came back from overseas, were also there. Su Yu, Lady Su and the twins were standing closest to the door. Everyone was nervous and the hallway suddenly quieted down. Everyone had a tacit understanding and remained silent. Sis, Daddy will wake up soon, right? Little Bean suddenly asked. Everyone's eyes turned towards Xiao Budian. Pudding was a woman of few words and only replied with one word. Don't worry, your daddy will get better. Su Yu touched Little Bean's head and comforted her. It's not easy for our Chu and Huamian. They're so young but they have to go through so much trouble. God is so unfair. Lady Qin leaned on her husband's shoulder and covered her face as she cried. Andy, don't be sad. Big brother will be fine. When he gets better he'll go find Mion. Qin Ning said. Yeah, my brother-in-law is a godlike man. He can do anything. He'll be fine. I don't know if this old man can save my son. I hope he can. Qin Chu's father also looked worried. Uncle Qin, the old man is a great doctor. Don't worry. No one knew the professor's identity, so it was normal for them to be worried. But Rick knew about it, so he reassured everyone. Rick, you seem to know as well. Gao Ran stood beside Rick and whispered. It's very complicated and can't be explained in 1 or 2 sentences. I'll tell you when Qin Chu wakes up. Gao Ran nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Little Bean, what's that in your hand? Gao Buin walked over and asked. I made a strawberry cake myself. I'll give it to my daddy when he wakes up. Little Bean carefully held the cake. It was obvious that her little body was quite nervous. Just like that, time passed by. 2 hours later, the professor walked out with the assistant from the hospital. How is it? Everyone gathered around. Siyu asked anxiously. The surgery went smoothly. First, the toxins in his body were dissolved. Then the liver was repaired. The professor spoke clearly. That's great. Suyu let out a sigh of relief. Everyone also became happy. Then will we be able to see Qin Chu in a while? Gao Ran was also excited. That's hard to say. We'll have to see how he recovers. Maybe a few hours, maybe a day or 2. So long. Qin Chu's parents were a little disappointed. Now that the poison has been detoxified and the surgery has been done, it's only a matter of time before he wakes up. It won't take more than 3 days. Don't worry. The professor gave a time limit. I want to go in and be with Daddy. Then, before anyone could stop her, Little Bean rushed in with the cake. Come back, Little Bean. Pudding rushed in after her sister. Let the 2 kids in. Now that he's fine, they must be worried. But it's not good to have too many people. The rest of you should go in batches. It's better not to disturb him. Suyu nodded. Rick walked over and handed a white handkerchief to the professor. Thank you for your hard work. Don't mention it. It's my own business. The professor smiled lovingly. Hearing this, Suyu looked back at the professor curiously. When are you leaving? I'll arrange for someone to drive you, Rick said. Chapter 3067. No need. It's troublesome if there are too many people. I can go by myself. The professor looked at his watch. I asked them to book a flight in 3 hours. It seems like we'll be leaving soon. In such a hurry. In a hurry? I've been out for the longest time. The professor smiled. Yes, I understand. Rick nodded. Old man, you can't leave yet. Qin Chu hasn't woken up yet, Suyu interrupted. Brat, do you want me to stay for the rest of my life? I'm afraid I won't work. Give me a commission. The professor looked at Suyu with a smile. To be honest, he quite liked this brainless young man. It was said that he liked Mion very, very much. He liked Hua Mion and the children very much. Commission? If it's about money, then it's easy. How much do you want? Name a price. Cash or check? Suyu said proudly. In Suyu's opinion, anything that could be solved with money was not a problem. So when he heard the old man talk about money, he was very happy. Brat, keep those 2 coins for yourself. Don't show them off. Old man, you're too arrogant. Imperial Star is a listed company. Although it's not the top company in the country, it's still a gathering of superstars. Conservatively speaking, it's worth more than 10 billion yuan. How can you say that my 2 coins are nothing? Are you stupid? Huh. The professor laughed, thinking that Suyu's way of speaking was very cute. Okay, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you here. I'm going to take a shower and change my clothes. I'll say goodbye to the 2 little ones. It's time to return them. Sir, about me. Rick wanted to ask if the professor didn't care about Mion's whereabouts. But before he could say it, the professor knew what he meant. So he replied, Yen will take care of that. I don't need to ask. Okay, I'll tell Chin-Chu when he wakes up, Rick said. Then the professor turned and followed the hospital staff to take a shower and change clothes. Suyu quietly pulled Rick aside. What? Is that old man rich? Yes, very rich. Rick nodded. You're not lying to me, are you? Suyu obviously didn't believe it. Do you think I need to lie to you? What does he do for a living? If he's so rich, why haven't I seen him on TV or in the newspapers? Suyu thought that he must be a famous overseas Chinese tycoon. She should have seen him before. That's because he keeps a low profile, Rick explained. That's really low-key. In the ward, Pudding and Little Bean surrounded Chin-Chu. He had just finished the operation and had not taken off his oxygen mask yet. His complexion didn't look very good and he was very weak. Daddy, Grandpa said you'll wake up soon. Then you can eat the cake I made, Little Bean said as she held the cake in her hands. Daddy, you have to get better soon. Mommy is still waiting for you to find her. Sis, if we find Mommy this time we have to kill the big bad guy, okay? Little Bean was angry at the thought of the man who kidnapped Mommy. Okay, let Daddy kill him. Pudding agreed with her little sister. After changing clothes, the professor came in to say goodbye to the twins. Pudding, Little Bean. He walked in. Grandpa, come here. Can you see if my daddy's blood pressure is high? Little Bean was making a fuss over nothing. You don't have to worry about that. The hospital has professionals to take care of him. The professor smiled. Grandpa, what are we having for lunch? No, I should ask, what are you going to make for us today? Little Bean held the professor's hand and asked happily. Chapter 3068. Pudding, Little Bean, come here. Grandpa has something to say. The professor sat down on the sofa in the ward and waved his hand. He called the twins over. Hey. Go ahead, Grandpa, Pudding said obediently. Your daddy's condition has stabilized and he'll wake up soon. So, at this point the professor paused for a moment. Then he looked at the twins with clear eyes and didn't have the heart to speak. Grandpa, so what? The impatient Little Bean was getting impatient. So Grandpa has to go. No. As soon as the professor finished speaking, Little Bean immediately said no. Grandpa, where are you going? Pudding was more rational than her sister. Back to where I came from. No, Grandpa. I won't let you go. If you leave, I'll cry. Little Bean tried to scare the professor. The professor couldn't bear to see Little Bean and Pudding in his arms and kissed their foreheads. Grandpa, can you not go? Why don't you stay? When Daddy wakes up, he'll go find Mommy. Then we'll be together as a family. We'll bring Auntie back. Our South Hill Manor is big. We can live there, Pudding said. It's not about the house. It's complicated and I can't explain it to you. But it doesn't mean I don't love you. If you leave, it means you don't love us anymore. I don't want you to leave. I want you to make delicious food for me. As Little Bean spoke, tears began to fall from her eyes. Seeing this, the professor's heart ached. Little Bean, be a good girl. Don't cry, okay? Well, if Grandpa leaves, I'll cry. Grandpa, you have to go. There's unfinished work. The professor tried to persuade his granddaughter. Grandpa, if you have to go, take Little Bean with you. Little Bean wants to go with Grandpa. Little Bean sat in the professor's arms and begged. The professor didn't know what to do. At his age, he had never taken care of a child. Lu Yen was raised on her own. At that time, he was busy with research and hiding from the evil organizations. He also had to investigate his wife, Linya. Huamin, on the other hand, grew up in someone else's arms. Therefore, in the face of the two children's pleas, the professor didn't know what to do. Grandpa, Little Bean and I really like you. When Mommy and Daddy weren't home, you took care of us. We really don't want to lose you. Not really. It's not like I'm not coming back. When I'm done with the last thing, I'll come and see you, okay? No, don't give us false promises. We don't believe your stalling tactic, Little Bean said. But I really can't stay. In other words, if I stay, not only will you be in danger, but your father, his friends, and even everyone in this city will be in danger. The professor tried to explain the nature of his job. Grandpa, are you an alien? Little Bean asked in all seriousness. Professor, Pudding, are the people from your planet coming to pick you up? If you don't go back, are they going to destroy Earth? Little Bean continued to ask questions. The professor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Grandpa, are you really not waiting for Mommy to come back? Don't you want to see her? I'm sure she really wants to see you, right? Pudding decided to change her strategy, which was different from Little Bean's clinginess. Chapter 3069. There are still many opportunities to see your mommy. Now is not the best time. Trust me. If I stay now, I'll bring you trouble. But we're not afraid of trouble. Little Bean pouted. Looking at the troubled expression on her grandpa's face, Pudding had an answer. Everyone knew how her grandpa treated them these days. If it weren't for the situation, she believed her grandpa wouldn't have left so heartlessly. Grandpa, will you come to see us again? Pudding asked. Of course. You're my babies. The professor held them in each hand and placed them on his lap. He really didn't want to leave these two jokers. He smiled more when he was with them than he had in his previous life combined. Especially when he was from another generation. He felt more for his daughter's daughter than he did for his daughter. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many stories of grandpas and grandpas spoiling their grandchildren. Grandpa, you should go. I know you must have your reasons. Finally, Pudding decided not to bother her grandpa anymore. And he didn't say what grandpa did for a living. Grandpa came and went mysteriously. Even Handsome Sue's secret investigation didn't yield any results. Maybe grandpa's job was special. Sis, are you crazy? How can you let grandpa go? Little Bean looked at Pudding in surprise. Grandpa loves us. If he had a choice, he wouldn't want to leave. If it weren't for Daddy's illness, he probably wouldn't have come back, Pudding said. Pudding is absolutely right. The professor gave a thumbs up to his granddaughter who had touched his heart. Auntie told me that she only sees Grandpa a few times a year. So Grandpa isn't lying. He must be very busy with work, Pudding said. Hearing this, Little Bean pouted and lowered her head guiltily. Yeah. Speaking of which, I feel guilty toward your auntie. I didn't take good care of her when she was young and let her go wild. The professor sighed slightly. So, we're very happy that Grandpa can operate on Daddy and take care of us for a few days. What more can we ask for? Pudding spread out her hands. Sis, you do have a point. Little Bean was finally enlightened. Hearing Pudding's explanation, the professor felt sad. Children of a few years old could understand him, but he did not understand himself. Why were they so passionate about scientific research in the first place? In order to pursue a higher goal, he was simply crazy. All these years, for the sake of these hobbies and research, it was as if his family had been separated. Linya was like that. She even had to leave her biological daughter, Mion, to be raised by someone else. Lu Yen was the most pitiful. She had to run around with him. After Linya's accident, he took Lu Yen to Hong Kong and lived in seclusion for a while. Later, when he went abroad, Lu Yen was taken over by someone in Hong Kong. However, the little girl was wild and couldn't be controlled by anyone. Later, she decided to live on her own. Constantly running away, being hunted down over and over again, Lu Yen had developed a lot of skills through her trials and tribulations. But as she grew older, she was no longer as clingy with the professor. Later, he was admitted to West Point Military Academy, graduated successfully, and then formed his own mercenary group. None of these professors knew about this. Later, the FBI told him that his daughter was already one of the best in the mercenary world. She was the most wanted criminal in the world. At that time, he realized that Yen had unknowingly grown up and walked on the path of a strong person. Grandpa, don't cry. I won't force you to stay. Seeing her grandpa's wet eyes, Little Bean quickly comforted him. Chapter 3070. No, Grandpa's fine. I just suddenly remembered something from the past. The professor pulled himself back from his thoughts and said gently to his granddaughter. Grandpa, have you booked your plane ticket? Will someone take you back? I'll ask Handsome Sue to make the arrangements. Uncle and will escort you to the airport, Pudding said. It's okay. Grandpa has made the arrangements. Someone will pick me up. Don't worry. Pudding nodded. Daddy will wake up soon. The two of you should be obedient and wait for Mommy to come back. Okay. Pudding nodded obediently. Just then, the professor's watch reminded him in a low voice, Professor, you should go to the airport. Okay. I got it. Then the professor stood up. Grandpa, you'll miss us, right? Pudding was still reluctant to leave. After all, she was a child. No matter who she lived with for a few days, she would become dependent on him. Of course. Then remember to call me or video call me. It's easy for me to pick up. You know my phone number, right? Pudding chattered. Yes. I remember your and Pudding's phone numbers. I'll call you when I'm free. Despite his words, the professor knew that once he went back, it would be difficult for him to make a phone call. He could only contact Lu Yen for less than 50 seconds each time. After all, his whereabouts were too important. He didn't even know how many people were looking for him. The FBI would also keep an eye on his movements at all times. They wouldn't allow him to talk so much on the phone. But he didn't need to tell the children about this. They were already disappointed that he was leaving. If they knew that he wouldn't call them, they would be very sad. Grandpa's leaving. The professor turned around and walked out slowly. Grandpa, goodbye. I'll miss you. Pudding's voice trembled when she said this. It was obvious that she was crying. Grandpa, have a safe trip. Pudding suppressed her emotions and pretended to be calm. The professor nodded and walked out with a heavy heart. When he walked to the door of the ward and opened it, a drop of tear fell on his calloused hand. Then he opened the door and left without looking back. The professor left without hesitation and didn't need anyone to see him off. Suyu and Rick stood at the entrance of the hospital, watching the black car slowly leave. Damn, what a mysterious old man. I'll find out his identity sooner or later. Z said. Rick didn't say a word, but there was a complicated look in his eyes. Lu Yen and the professor had complicated backgrounds and weren't people he and Suyu could control. Even Qin Chu would not easily step into their circle. Rick knew the reason why they hadn't come looking for Huamin all these years. Someone who had a grudge with the leader of the top international terrorist organization was no joke. After the professor left, members of the Qin family entered the ward to visit Qin Chu one after another. Lady Qin held the hands of her two granddaughters. Qin Ning, her father, and Tang Chuan all stood to the side. Uncle, since you're back, why don't you stay with the children? I think my brother will wake up soon, Qin Ning said. Okay. Qin Chu's father nodded. I'll take care of my brother in the hospital. You're not feeling well, so you should go back and rest. Dad, you should go back too. You must be tired from the long flight. Qin Ning looked back at her father. Ning Ning, come out. Dad wants to talk to you. Qin Chu's second uncle gestured for Qin Ning to go out alone. Seeing the father and daughter acting so mysteriously, Tang Chuan's expression changed slightly. He felt uncertain. Chapter 3071. Daddy, why do you have to be so secretive? We can't talk about it in the house. Uncle and the others aren't strangers. How are things going between you and that kid from the Tang family? Qin Ning's father asked coldly. That's pretty good. Something happened to your brother and your uncle went to the resort. I heard you moved into that kid's mansion? Yeah, that's right. Qin Ning nodded confidently. Ahem, did you guys? What do you mean? Qin Ning was confused. Did you guys? As a father, he didn't want to ask his daughter this question, but Qin Ning's father felt worried if he didn't ask. What? Qin Ning didn't want to think about that, so she felt strange when her father stuttered. Did that kid take advantage of you? Qin Ning, Daddy, we're in a relationship. Why do you have to use the word take advantage? Qin Ning was speechless. Before her father could speak, Qin Ning continued, Daddy, you've been in the States for so many years. You won't take this matter too hard, right? Although nothing happened between her and Tang Chuan, Qin Ning was still very open-minded and comforted her father. I'm not trying to control you. I'm just worried that you'll be too naive and stupid to be dumped by that kid. After all, that kid has a bad reputation. What if you get pregnant before marriage and he abandons you again? I won't let that happen. Qin Ning laughed. You're still laughing. Be serious. I'm serious. Daddy, you're saying this for my own good. I know, but I'm not stupid. I know how to protect myself. Are you coming back to the States with me this time? Sure enough, her father still asked. I'm not sure yet. Daddy, my brother hasn't woken up yet and my sister-in-law hasn't come back. The two kids are so pitiful. I'm worried about them. Come on, don't brush me off. Even if Chu didn't happen, you still wouldn't want to go. I think you're determined to stay here with that kid. That's not it. It's not like I won't go back to the States. Don't worry, Daddy. Qin Ning hugged her father's arm. The Qin family stayed in the hospital for almost a day. When it was dark, Qin Chu's parents took the two children back to South Hill Manor. Originally, Qin Ning wanted to stay and take care of Qin Chu, but Rick said he wanted to stay so she couldn't refuse. Therefore Tang Chuan picked up Qin Ning and went back first. Rick sent Cece home to reunite with her family. Then he was sent back to the hospital. Qin Chu showed no signs of waking up, but Rick believed in the professor's medical skills. On a private jet, Lu Yan's watch beeped. Lu Yan answered the phone half asleep. I've finished my business in China. Qin Chu will wake up soon. I've already left. Wow, Pops, you're really reliable. How are you? Any news from Ian? The professor asked. He's a bit sad. I think he needs a few days to recover. Lu Yan felt happy when she thought about how she tricked Ian again. Don't let your guard down. Take care of yourself. I know, Pops. Have you found anything about your sister? The professor asked. Hearing this, Lu Yan's eyes dimmed slightly. Not yet. I don't know where that psycho Huasiqian hid my sister. There's not even a trace of her. Lu Yan bit her lips. Keep looking. I'll ask the FBI to help. If there's any news, let me know. Okay. Then I'll hang up. Hey, don't. Pops, I still have something to ask you, Lu Yan said anxiously just as the professor was about to hang up. Chapter 3072. Go ahead. Do you have any thoughts after seeing your two granddaughters? Yes. What thoughts? Tell me. Lu Yan got up from the big bed in the inner cabin like a puff of smoke, her face full of gossip. In order to hear clearly, she put the phone on speaker. Xiao Fei, who was sleeping on the leather chair, was woken up by the noise. The professor thought for a moment and replied solemnly, My idea is that you should stop fighting and killing. Get married and live your life like your sister. Lu Yan, you and Xiao Fei should hurry up and have children. I'll be happier if I have more grandchildren. Lu Yan, hearing this, Xiao Fei smiled slightly. His father-in-law was indeed a good father-in-law in China. What are you laughing at? Lu Yan glanced at Xiao Fei and found him laughing. What did you say? The professor was angry. No. Dad, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Xiao Fei. Haha, Lu Yan explained immediately. Hey. Since there's nothing else, that's all. Then the professor hung up. How dare you eavesdrop on my phone call? Do you want to die? Lu Yan glared at him. I didn't eavesdrop. I just happened to wake up. But I think your dad is right. What's right? Lu Yan looked at him in surprise. Hurry up. Look at my sister's twins. Hurry up. Fuck off. Lu Yan threw a pillow at him. Fortunately, Xiao Fei reacted quickly. Lu Yan's personality was the best of the best. Ordinary men couldn't stand her. She would swear and blow people up at the slightest provocation. She would shoot people at the slightest provocation or throw knives at them. She could shoot countless gunfight movies in her life. It was too surreal. But even so, Xiao Fei still loved Lu Yan and was willing to be with her every day. Even if he was hunted down and would die in the next second, he didn't care. In this world, the most beautiful love might not be a vow of eternal love, not a landslide, not a lovey-dovey relationship, and definitely not a lingering feeling. Maybe it was just like the tacit understanding between Xiao Fei and Lu Yan, where they would never leave each other. Never abandoning or giving up, no matter when. China, Sea City Military Hospital. Perhaps because of the time difference, Rick didn't feel sleepy. He wanted to smoke a cigarette. However, he remembered that smoking was prohibited in the ward, so he simply gave up. He stood by the window thinking about his wedding with Cece and the child in their womb. She wondered where Huasiqian had abducted Huamin. His thoughts immediately drifted far, far away. Suddenly, a weak cough startled him. Cough, cough, cough. A very low voice could be heard. However, Rick still heard it clearly. He immediately strode to the bed. As expected, Qin Chu's closed eyes slowly opened. Rick was actually a little excited. Qin Chu, he said. Brother, pour me a glass of water. After Qin Chu woke up, he was not in a hurry to ask Rick why he was here. He wanted water. Rick suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and poured a glass of water for Qin Chu. Then he very sensibly inserted a straw into the glass and placed it next to Qin Chu's mouth. After all, he had just woken up and was afraid that he would choke from drinking too much water. Seeing the straw, Qin Chu hesitated for a moment, but in the end he gave in. Qin Chu drank the full glass of water. Then his expression gradually improved. Rick, how long have I been unconscious? Chin-Chu lowered his voice and asked. Chapter 3073. A few days. Chin-Chu was speechless. I thought you were going to ask me what year it is now, Rick said seriously. Not really. I was unconscious, not transmigrated. To be honest, you slept long enough. We were all scared, Rick said slowly as he sat on the chair beside the bed and looked at Chin-Chu. Yeah. At that moment I thought I was dead, Chin-Chu said. How are you now? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you want me to call the doctor? Oh, I'm fine now. Let's talk. Chin-Chu waved his hand and asked Rick, who was about to get up to call the doctor, to sit down. Yeah. When did you come back? Yesterday. Cece is back too? Yeah, they're all back. How about my daughters? Are they okay? Thinking of his two precious little girls, Chin-Chu felt warm in his heart. They're fine. They stayed with you in the hospital during the day. At night, I saw that they were sleepy, so I went back to South Hill Manor with your mother. My parents are back. Yeah. Your second uncle is back too. Second uncle is back too? Chin-Chu was slightly surprised. Yeah. Everyone was worried about you. They all thought that you would. Rick paused for a second. I know. They all thought I wouldn't wake up, right? Yeah. After all, you're in a difficult situation. Plus, the medicine you took before was very stimulating. All the doctors in the country and abroad couldn't do anything about it. Then who operated on me? Chin-Chu asked. How did you know? Rick was shocked. Chin-Chu had just woken up. He didn't know anything about the situation. There are sutures here. Chin-Chu pointed at his chest. You're indeed a doctor. You're so sensitive. You even noticed this. I was just about to tell you that your surgery was actually... The professor is back, right? Chin-Chu asked calmly. You can even guess that? Other than my Mion, I don't think anyone has such amazing medical skills. Lu Yen definitely can't do it. She only knows how to make explosives. Yes, the professor is back. I was shocked too. I didn't expect him to. Rick nodded. I'm sure he will. Mion is his daughter. He won't abandon us. Lu Yen must have been here too, right? Yeah, I think so. Suyi didn't know Lu Yen, so he didn't mention her. But my people found out that after your accident, many of Hua Xiqian's subordinates were killed. The Municipal Public Security Bureau couldn't find the killer, and the Gao Ran was also troubled. But I think Lu Yen did it. She wanted to force out Hua Min's whereabouts. Upon hearing the mention of Mion, Chin-Chu fell slightly silent and lowered his head. His long eyelashes were filled with melancholy. Did the professor leave already? Yeah, he left today. Pudding and Little Bean seemed to be very close to him. When he left, the two kids cried. The professor seemed to be in a bad mood. Yeah, blood is thicker than water. Of course they have feelings for each other. Chin-Chu, why didn't you ask about Mion? Rick couldn't hold it in anymore and asked him. There's no point in asking. You guys definitely don't know where she is. He thought of that. Rick was surprised. As expected of the smart Chin-Chu, he seemed to be able to predict many things. Since Hua Xiqian planned all of this, he wouldn't let you guys find out so easily. That's not his style. Chin-Chu, has it never occurred to you that Hua Mion is already dead? Rick asked, enunciating each word. Chapter 3074. No, I never thought about it. Where did you get your confidence from? You're so decisive. Rick smiled, which was rare for him. I've loved her for so many years, so I'm sure she's still alive. Fine. I don't understand the chemistry between husband and wife. After all, I'm not married yet. You'll understand in the future. Chin-Chu smiled. You're much better now. I thought you'd continue to be depressed because of the lack of news about Hua Min. I might have been in the past, but not now. Besides being Hua Min's husband, I'm also their father. Then Chin-Chu took out his cell phone and opened the photos, looking at the smiling faces of the children. He and Hua Mion, he and the children. They were a happy family. The gentleness in Chin-Chu's eyes was something Rick had never seen before. After Hua Xiqian went missing, Ian seemed to be looking for him as well. This time he even betrayed Ian. People like him would never listen to Ian wholeheartedly. Chin-Chu put down his phone and said to Rick, I thought he had a close relationship with Ian's family. After all, he and Nalo had a history. That's why Huasichen probably hates Ian and his brother to the core. Huasichen doesn't play by the rules. I've sent people to investigate, but there's still no news. Lu Yen is also investigating, and I'm sure the professor will do the same. Yeah, there must be a reason behind this. Mion is smart, I'm sure she'll find a way to send us a message. Qin Chu was confident in Huamian. Meanwhile, on a deserted island, Huamian was being held captive by Huasichen, but Huasichen was really nice to her. Aside from restricting her freedom and not allowing her to leave the island, Huamian was very nice to her. Everything else was available. Seeing that Huamin didn't like to eat the food on the island, he ordered people to send some rare fruits and meat, even seafood, lobster, abalone, etc. However, no matter what he did, he couldn't seem to see Huamin's smiling face. Every day Huamin would slander him. Even so, Huasichen still felt very happy. Mion, look, you didn't really like those dresses, so I made a few more for you. They were made from high-quality silk from Suzhou. I made a few long dresses according to your figure, but considering that you're pregnant and your belly will get bigger and bigger, I asked the tailor to make some changes to your belly. Do you like them? Huasichen carefully held a few light-colored dresses and presented them to Huamin. Huasichen, don't waste your time. I won't like you no matter what you do, Huamin responded with a cold expression. It's okay if you don't like me. I've never forced you to like me. I like you. What's the point of one-sided love? Don't you think it's boring? Huamin glared at him. Oh, I'm enjoying it. Oh right, I'll leave the dresses here for you. Try them on when you have time. They've been washed and disinfected. I know you're a clean freak. Huasichen smiled. Huamin turned his head away and stopped talking to him. Huasichen placed the dresses beside Huamin and stood up to leave. When he reached the door, he suddenly turned around. Mion, do you want to have fish soup tonight? As for the main dish, do you like rice or steamed buns? This scene was like a responsible husband taking care of his pregnant wife. Huamin suddenly felt that the scene was very strange. Chapter 3075. You're not talking? Huasichen raised his eyebrows and continued, then I'll take it that you're admitting that it's rice. Then he continued to get busy. What he was busy with was chopping firewood, picking fruits, cooking and helping Huamin wash clothes. Huamin had been here for the past few days. Other than getting angry, scolding and throwing tantrums, he didn't do anything else. Huasichen, on the other hand, waited on her like a nanny. It was really an indescribable feeling. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. Taking advantage of Huasichen's absence, Huamin wandered around alone and began to think about how to leave the island. Huasichen didn't even leave his phone behind because all electronic signals were blocked on the island. He must have instructed his subordinates to send supplies regularly. Then when his subordinates came, he told them to send supplies the next time. He was really isolated from the rest of the world. Other than her and Huasichen, there was no one else around. Was she really going to die of old age here? Huamin didn't have the patience. If she couldn't get out like this, then she wouldn't even give birth to her child. She would just jump into the sea with the baby in her belly and commit suicide. That was better than being kept as a pet, especially if it was her child. She wouldn't allow her child to be like her the moment it was born. She wouldn't allow her child to become a prisoner and live the rest of its life. Huamin had always thought that she was quite smart. Therefore she kept thinking of ways to leave the island. She even used a tree branch to draw an SOS, a big letter, on the beach, hoping that a plane or ship would come and save her. SOS was an international distress signal. No matter which country it was, as long as they saw this signal, they would know that someone was trapped here. At first, Huamin was full of confidence. Huasichen didn't seem to notice what she was doing. He didn't even keep an eye on her and allowed her to wander around the island. However, after 3 or 4 days, Huamin felt a little hopeless. This was because she realized that this island was too small. No one passed by at all. Occasionally there would be a plane, but it would be thousands of miles above the ground. They wouldn't be able to see the letter she wrote. Therefore, her plan to call for help could be said to have failed before it even had a chance. This was a huge blow to Huamin and she was depressed. During dinner, as usual, Huasichen walked over with a tray and gently placed it on Huamin's table. Huamian hadn't had a chance to sit down and have a meal with Huasichen since she arrived. However, Huasichen seemed to have gotten used to this rhythm. Mian, I heard that pregnant women need to be in a good mood. What are you going to do with your frown? It's all because of you. Why are you making sarcastic remarks now? Huamian was full of resentment. She felt as if she had become a different person. Her entire body was filled with resentment and anger, and she could even go crazy at any moment. She was no longer as quick-witted, calm, and composed as she was in the hospital. You can be angry with me, hit me, or scold me. Just vent your anger. Huasiqian smiled. Then I'll kill you, okay? Huamin was furious. Sure, anytime. But I'm the only living thing on this island. If you kill me, you'll be the only one left. Who's going to take care of you then? Do I need you to take care of me? Huamin sneered. You've been on this island for so long, but you've never smiled. I really want to see you smile. I'll never smile at someone like you again, not in this lifetime. Stop dreaming. Huamin glared at Huasiqian fiercely. Mian, take a look at this. Huasiqian handed over a craft paper bag. Chapter 3076. What's this? Huamin glanced at the bag warily. Let's take a look first. Huamin dubiously dealt with the contents of the craft paper bag. In an instant his heart almost melted. They were photos of the twins, Pudding and Little Bean. They were all photos of the two children. Some were taken on the streets. Some were taken while eating at a restaurant. There was something oily at the corner of Little Bean's mouth. She looked extremely cute. Huamin held the photos and looked at them affectionately. His gaze also became warm. Huamin, who exuded the aura of motherly love, was very charming. Huamin lowered her head and a strand of her long hair fell down. It covered the side of her delicate face. Huasiqian was moved. He reached out his hand and was about to help her tidy up. But Huamin reached out and slapped his hand away. What are you doing? Don't be nervous. I just want to help you tidy up your hair. I don't need you to do it. Hey. Don't be nervous. Are like a little porcupine. You're so paranoid. Huasiqian smiled. Huamin held the photos lovingly, tears in her eyes. How did you get these photos? Of course they were taken by my people. What do you think? Are you happy? These are all the latest photos. Look at the date below. That's from the day before yesterday. Huamin was silent. My people took them and sent them to my people. They printed them. If you like them, I'll ask them to take more photos for you in the future. You make it sound like you're doing me a favor. It's because you kidnapped me that I can't see my daughters. Huamin raised her head, angry again. Calm down, Mian. After the baby is born, you'll still be a mother. Shut up. What does this baby have to do with you? Don't even think about it. No, I'm not. I'll treat him very well. Don't worry. Huasiqian smiled. All right, with these photos you should be in a good mood. Eat more tonight. After speaking, Huasiqian got up and walked over to the table to eat. Huamin wasn't in the mood to eat. He looked at the photos again and again. They seemed to have grown taller. Huamin mumbled to himself. Military hospitals. When they heard the news that Qin Chu had woken up, it was 6 o'clock the next morning. All the members of the Qin family rushed to the military hospital. Suyu had also arrived early. The twins suppressed their longing for their father and rushed into the ward. Qin Chu woke up very early. The documents in his hands were all about the properties under Huasiqian. He was trying to locate them. Oh my God, Daddy. Thank God you're finally awake. Little Bean shouted excitedly. Little Bean, did you miss me? Qin Chu put down the documents in his hands and looked at his daughter lovingly. I missed you so much. Daddy. Little Bean ran over and threw herself into Qin Chu's arms. Little Bean, be gentle. Daddy just had surgery and hasn't recovered yet, Pudding reminded her from behind. What are you afraid of? Our daddy is Superman. He doesn't care about these things. Little Bean hugged Qin Chu's neck excitedly and refused to let go. Qin Chu kissed the little girl's forehead. Then Qin Chu looked at Pudding, who was behind Little Bean. Pudding, come here. Daddy wants to hug you. Qin Chu smiled gently. Pudding shook her head. No, Daddy's injuries haven't healed yet. I don't want to hug you. Pudding was only thinking about her father's health. Then you don't love Daddy anymore? Qin Chu's voice was always so pleasant to the ears. Oh my God, Qin Chu was acting cute with his daughter. This was the first time that this had happened. Even Pudding was shocked. Sis, don't be silly. Daddy is acting cute with you. Come here, Little Bean waved her hand and shouted at her sister, "You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."